With this kind of expression, how could Yi Futian not understand what his visitor meant? With this kind of expression, how could Yi Futian not understand what his visitor meant? It was just that he did not know why a marquis show him such goodwill. Where did his appreciation for him come from? The Shui family of Dali Imperial City has come to visit. Is Master Seventh Swordsman here? Came another voice from outside. Yi Futian was stunned, then said, "Please come in." He then watched as another group of people walked into his residence. They came up to him and said, "Congratulations, Master Seventh Swordsman. The household of Marquis Yang has come to greet you. The Lin family has come to greet you." Voice after voice came from outside. Yi Futian invited them all in one after the other, and in the blink of an eye his residence was full of people. And everyone who had come were people of status. Among them, many of the families had brought their family beauties along with them. All of them were lovely and elegant women, so beautiful as to make fish sink and birds alight. They were a feast for the eyes, and Yi Futian's eyes feasted on them, but it was all a little awkward. Could it be Master Seventh Swordsman? At that moment, another beautiful figure flashed over. Li Yu and Li Yang had come directly to him. They were familiar with each other, so they did not need to be announced. "Greetings, my prince, princess." Everyone bowed when they saw them. Although King Li was the absolute master of the lower worlds, his influence was quite weak in the upper worlds. But he was after all one of the four kings. Yi Futian looked up at the two of them, and saw that both of them looked rather excited. They descended before him, and Li took a step forward, coming right up to him. "Master Seventh Swordsman," she said, "there is news from the Imperial Advisor's household. He has chosen you." In her excitement, Li Yu was leaning very close to Yi Futian. He suddenly caught a whiff of the fragrance she was wearing. Seeming to see the strange look on Yi Futian's face, Li Yu suddenly realized how close the two of them were. She blushed and took a step back, but there was still excitement in her beautiful eyes. Everyone had thought that the person that the Imperial Advisor chose would be either Di Hao or Dong Chen, but new information had come from the Imperial Advisor's household. The Imperial Advisor of the Dali dynasty would take Seventh Swordsman as his disciple. Everyone had been waiting for news from the Imperial Advisor for the past few days, and once it came out they were instantly in motion. That was why they had all come here so fast, and why everything that had taken place here at his residence had happened. The greatest swordsman of his generation had been recognized by the Imperial Advisor, and chosen to be his disciple. His future path was hard to predict. But at the very least they could come to get to know him and congratulate him. There was nothing wrong with maintaining friendly relations with him. And if Yi Futian noticed the beautiful women in their families, that was even better. Seventh Swordsman was still young and extremely talented. His swordsmanship was unmatched, and he was also very handsome. This kind of man was extremely rare. The disciple of the Imperial Advisor could even seek to marry a princess, and Emperor Li would not refuse him. Given what had happened in his residence, Li Yu's news was not unexpected, nor did it surprise him too much. In reality, he did not want to become the Imperial Advisor's disciple. When the Imperial Advisor had questioned him on that day, he had felt a strong sense of pressure and alertness. And Xia Qingyuan had once reminded him that at the Imperial Advisor's side he would be under even greater threat. Of course, his status would also be very high, and he could come into direct contact with Li Yao. What does that expression mean? Li Yu saw Yi Futian's aloof and unconcerned look and could not help but purse her lips. The Imperial Advisor had chosen him as his personal disciple, and he did not even look a little bit excited. Previously, the shadow-bearing Sword Saint had invited him to come to Sword Mountain to cultivate. But that was only Sword Mountain, and the Master of Sword Mountain had not promised to take Yi Futian as a disciple. However, now the Imperial Advisor did want to take him as a disciple. The two things could not even be mentioned in the same sentence. And moreover, even the Master of Sword Mountain was of lower status than the Imperial Advisor. He was lower only than Emperor Li himself. "What expression should I have?" asked Yi Futian. Li Yu said nothing to him. Her excitement seemed to have been ruined by his cold blood, and she just stared at him. At that moment there was another voice from the sky as another mighty group of figures came. They descended into his residence, and at their head was the imperial advisor's disciple Lu Chuan. Some of those who had come with him were members of the imperial family. For example, the prince of the Dali dynasty, Li Yao, was there as well. Seventh swordsman called Lu Chuan as he walked towards Yi Futian. My master is willing to take you as his disciple and would like to ask your opinion on the matter. Are you willing? Lu Chuan spoke directly and frankly. Yi Futian looked at everyone around him. With the imperial advisor's position within the Dali dynasty, he had even been able to send Li Yao as part of the group inviting Yi Futian. Under this situation, if he refused, he would have no chance to get close to the Dali dynasty. Li Yao would also get farther away. I am willing to enter the imperial advisor's household, said Yi Futian. Perhaps the threat was greater, but entering the imperial advisor's household to cultivate would bring him closer to Li Yao. And thus his chance of killing Li Yao would become greater. Li Yu let out a big breath when she heard Yi Futian's answer, as if she had finally relaxed. She had truly feared that Yi Futian might refuse. In the Dali dynasty, no one refused to enter the imperial advisor's household. Even Di Hao had requested to join him after defeating Dong Qin. But Li Yu could not get a handle on Yi Futian. The guy was a mystery. But now he had finally accepted. From now on you may call me brother, said Lu Chuan with a smile. Brother Lu Chuan, Yi Futian called out with a smile. He had stepped into his role quickly. Everyone in his residence bowed. Congratulations, seventh swordsman. From this day forward, there would be another hero in the Dali dynasty. Seventh swordsman. At that moment, Li Yao walked forward as well and said, Congratulations. Greetings, your highness, said Yi Futian with a slight bow. No need to be so polite. I am also a disciple of the imperial advisor. I may not be personally taught by him, but from now on I will still call you brother. You can call me Li Yao or brother. Li Yao seemed very polite. Your highness, I wouldn't dare be so improper, said Yi Futian, taking a step away from him. Don't worry about it. You'll soon get used to it, said Li Yao with a smile. He seemed very easy to get along with. Seeing Li Yao's attitude, Yi Futian relaxed a little. This way, he would not have to fear not getting his chance. The danger was greater, but it seemed that it was worth it. If he entered the imperial advisor's household, he would have a chance to kill Li Yao in the future. Of course, at this point he could not reveal even a little bit of his hostility. Let us all go to the imperial advisor's residence together, said Lu Chuan. Yi Futian nodded, and the group of them left together. As they were leaving his residence, he saw several people appear there. In the distance there were people watching him, which made everyone stop. What are you doing, Li Xian? Said Li Yao. Li Xian bowed to Li Yao, then said, Your Highness, I only came to ask Mr. Lu Chuan, why did the imperial advisor choose seventh swordsman? Does my master need to explain his choice of disciple to you? Asked Lu Chuan. How can I dare question his choice of disciple? It's just that several days ago this man held a sword to my throat, and now the imperial advisor has taken him as a disciple. I'm a little hurt by that, said Li Xian. So, said Lu Chuan. It's nothing. I'm just a little hurt by it, said Li Xian with a smile, then he stepped back. Don't try to stir up trouble, said Li Yao to Li Xian. They all ignored Li Xian then, and looked ahead of them. Up there, a group of figures were standing proudly, with powerful auras. These were the cultivators of Daily Mountain, and the youth standing at their head was Di Hao. At that moment countless people were already gathered in the area. After the news had come out from the imperial advisor's residence, the people had flowed here like water. The whole city had been shaken. The imperial advisor had not chosen Dong Qin of Dali Academy, nor had he chosen Di Hao, the most powerful figure under the saint level. Instead, he had chosen seventh swordsman. No one knew what the imperial advisor was thinking, and they were all curious. They did not know why the imperial advisor had done this, and at the same time they wanted to see what kind of person seventh swordsman was. Now they saw that he was incredibly handsome and extremely heroic looking. But now, Di Hao, who had defeated Dong Qin and claimed the title of the most powerful person below the saint level, was there, standing in front of Yi Futian. The imperial advisor did not choose the defeated Dong Qin, but he also did not choose brother Di Hao. Was it because he comes from Daily Mountain? Is that why he chose him? The 7 Sins stood beside Di Hao with sharp eyes as they stared at Yi Futian. My master had his own reasons for making his choice. Does he have to explain them to you? Lu Chuan frowned. This was the second time he had been questioned, and so his tone was a bit colder. No matter if they were from the Prince Regent's household or Daily Mountain, they had no right to question the imperial advisor's decisions, especially not who he chose as a disciple. Do not be so rash, 7 Sins, said Di Hao. The 7 Sins' eyes were sharp, and sword were wrapped around them as they stared forward. Di Hao took a few steps forward and said, Since the imperial advisor has made his choice, there is nothing that I can say. Today I am returning to Daily Mountain to cultivate. Before that, I would like to teach the imperial advisor's chosen disciple a lesson. Sword will swirled around him and his majestic aura swept out. He stared straight ahead at Yi Futian and said, I am Di Hao of Daily Mountain. Show me what you've got. As he said this, the hubbub around them subsided, and all was silent. Di Hao was arrogant without question. He had no right to question the imperial advisor's decision, but before he left the city he would stand before the one the imperial advisor had chosen to be his disciple. At least he would leave something behind before he left. Countless gazes fell upon Yi Futian. Did he dare to accept the challenge? 3 days ago, Di Hao had defeated Dong Qin. Everyone thought that Daily Mountain meant to shame the imperial advisor, but afterwards Di Hao had asked to become the imperial advisor's disciple. But now it was different. The imperial advisor had chosen 7th swordsman. If Di Hao defeated him, or even crushed him absolutely, that would probably be quite embarrassing for the imperial advisor. This Di Hao had some anger in his heart. That was why he had come here to stand before Yi Futian. Di Hao was the only one who was angry. All of the people from Daily Mountain were. If the imperial advisor had chosen Dong Qin as his disciple, even though Di Hao had defeated him, they could still accept this. After all, Dong Qin was the imperial advisor's man. Di Hao would have left quietly. But the imperial advisor had chosen 7th swordsman. Yi Futian looked at Di Hao and was silent for a moment. Then he stepped forward and said, I am 7th swordsman. Show me what you've got. Yi Futian's body had sword will circling him as soon as he finished talking. He turned his eyes at Di Hao, looking calm and without a hint of irritation. Yi Futian's body had sword will circling him as soon as he finished talking. He turned his eyes at Di Hao, looking calm and without a hint of irritation. So the students of Daily Mountain are unable to sit well with the imperial advisor taking me in as his student? Futian thought. Well then we'll have to fight it out. A bolt of lightning streaked through the air. Yi Futian shot to the sky like a sword. It was not Dali Academy, and there was no battle platform. As such, there was no need for restraints, and one could have fought in the sky to their heart's content. There was not even any need to suppress one's power. Di Hao looked up slightly after seeing what Yi Futian was doing. He stepped out and took to the air as well. The sound of the bell resounded with a big dong, shaking the eardrums of those below. Yi Futian felt his brain being shaken. A formless sound wave swept past and invaded his spiritual will right away. It was an overpowering move that caused his mind to be rattled. It was a sound wave attack of the Great Path, one which had no form. Yi Futian did not stop but continued flying upwards instead, shooting into the clouds. Di Hao pursued him, and both of them were flying at blitzing speeds. All 3 of Di Hao's life spirits, the sword, the cauldron, and the bell, appeared. Superpowerful will of the Great Path swept through the air. He stepped in the midair, and the sound of the bell resounded throughout the sky, covering all of their surroundings. Formless ancient bells appeared around Yi Futian and bombarded him with the undying sound of the bell. Yi Futian's pupils turned extremely demonic. It was as if his eyes were able to see through everything. The formless bells were unable to escape his eyes. A sword appeared in his hand, and lightning storms rained down from above, which were fused with his sword like the calamity of the world. Attack! Yi Futian lashed out with his sword. Dong! The sound of the bells rang throughout the air as the bells exploded and crumbled one after another. Boom! The cauldron behind Di Hao grew in a frenzy to hundreds of meters tall, raining down, suppressing the will of the great path. Their surroundings resonated with his power as one cauldron after another came into being, sealing the space that Yi Futian occupied right away. Extremely dazzling light was seen coursing all over Yi Futian's body. Sword aura howled and circled about him. One heavy sword after another appeared, and every single one of them emanated terrifying power. The sword spirit appeared before him dazzlingly. He held it with both hands, and boundless sword will float about, fusing into the sword spirit and transforming it into a 100-meter-tall sword that weighed thousands of pounds. Down, Di Hao said coldly. The cauldrons dived and pressed onto Yi Futian like the might of the heavens. Yi Futian burst with sword will, and the heavy swords shot up to the sky, clashing with the cauldrons. Loud rumbling noises that shook the heavens were heard. Di Hao stepped out, and the bells rang in unison. That cauldron shot up and came right above Yi Futian. Boundless light of the great path rained down on Yi Futian. Countless shadows of the cauldron came down as well, making the space stifling. Yi Futian swung his hand about, and the heavy swords hovered in midair, letting out high-pitched ringing sounds. He shot out with his hand and clapped on the heavy sword. One shadow of the heavy sword after another shot up, clashing with the cauldrons that were raining down. At the same time, Yi Futian pushed the heavy sword while he streaked forward, mowing down everything that was standing in his way. The 100-meter-tall gigantic sword pressed forward with immense might, bombarding the cauldron spirit. It burst with extremely dazzling glimmer, as devastating might of the great path washed all over the sky. Di Hao looked at the one who attacked his cauldron spirit with a sword and continued to move forward. Sword will howled behind him, and the swords of Cassiopeia coalesced, pulsing with light out to tear everything apart. The swords rang loudly as they were being pointed at Yi Futian. Yi Futian stepped out, and the air trembled. His aura was towering as he clapped the gigantic sword before him. Power from within his body burst, and the cauldron spirit was thrown far away with a loud boom. Go! Di Hao uttered a single word. The swords of Cassiopeia shot through the skies as they spun, tearing through the space at great speed, arriving right before his opponent. Yi Futian stepped into the air at almost the same moment, throwing out his sword right before him. A terrifying screen appeared in front of that heavy sword in an instant, ramming straight at the sword of Cassiopeia but unable to penetrate it. The light of stars dazzled on the screen, protecting Yi Futian behind it. Di Hao's expression was cold. He stepped once again, pointing with his finger, coalescing even more swords forward. The cauldron in the air was dropped yet again. Yi Futian did not bother with that falling cauldron. He stepped forward once again, wrapping up the swords of Cassiopeia as he pressed on. His power of the swords becoming even more frightening as he streaked through the air. Boundless light of the sword from Yi Futian flowed into that gigantic sword before him. He eventually slapped with both of his hands, and with a loud boom, the gigantic sword shattered the swords of Cassiopeia, ramming ahead straight at Di Hao. Di Hao shot up and evaded the attack in an instant, but Yi Futian did not bother with it. He stepped forward and held the sword with both hands, flipping his entire body behind. He gathered overwhelming strength and swung the sword out with massive force. He melded extremely overbearing power from his whole being into that chop within that very instant. The enormous golden cauldron spirit came at him again as the heavy sword was swung. Clang! A terrifying rumble was heard, and the cauldron spirit rattled violently. Di Hao grunted midair. He extended his hand and summoned the cauldron back to the air. Yi Futian stepped forward and spun, throwing out another chop with the heavy sword. Clang! Yet another rumble was heard as the cauldron spirit was pinned down. Its sound resounded throughout the space as it kept rattling. Di Hao's face was rather ashen. That was his life spirit. Furthermore, the power of the sword around Yi Futian was still growing. Sword will continue to course about Di Hao's body. The sword of Cassiopeia was circling around him before shooting down through the air, heading straight for Yi Futian. Yi Futian stepped around in the air and brought his sword down again. So long Di Hao refused to come down, Yi Futian would make do with pummeling his life spirits. Di Hao descended. Endless killing swords shot through the air, intending to kill Yi Futian. However, when Yi Futian brought his heavy sword down, The entire space seemed to have been placed in a lockdown. That sword is not sharp at all, but it brought with it boundless heft. Despite his formidable powers, Di Hao was thrown off by the attack. The swords of raging storms manifested around Yi Futian and flew straight at Di Hao, who looked troubled as he pointed forward, sword spirit in hand, intending to mow everything down. At that moment, Yi Futian streaked through the air and brought the heavy sword down from above. Di Hao disappeared from where he stood, turning into a beam of dazzling light. However, Yi Futian disappeared alongside him after having him targeted. That sword attack moved along the space with Yi Futian, heading straight for Di Hao, just like that attack that he swung at Seven Sins 3 days ago, ignoring the movements in space altogether. Di Hao was brought down by the attack from above. His body dropped to the ground in a straight line. Yi Futian did not stop right there. He took one step and dove down. However, the heavy sword in his hand transformed in a heartbeat, dispersing into a sword filled with the will of the great path of space. It followed Yi Futian down. He launched yet another attack at Di Hao, tearing through the space as he went. Countless people from below looked up. They were only able to see countless beams of the sword flashing where Yi Futian was, shooting in different directions. It seemed as if there were nothing but the aura of the sword in that space. A beam of the sword flashed as it dived, making it seem as if the space was being bisected. It was as if the place was being cut down by the heavens. At the very next moment, a beam of light shot down, and with a loud boom, 2 silhouettes were found on the ground, bursting with sword aura. Everyone turned their eyes in that direction. Sword will filled that space and rang. When the sword aura was dispersed, 2 silhouettes were seen. Di Hao and Yi Futian appeared clearly. In that instant, the place was dead silent without a hint of sound, other than the reverberation from wind and sword will howling. The hearts of many seemed to have stopped, and the mighty ones were ashen as they stared at the scene before them. How is this possible? The tip of Yi Futian's sword was pointed at Di Hao's throat. Di Hao's clothing was in a mess after being torn apart by the sword aura. 7th Swordsman. The faces of the spectators were filled with fright and awe. He had defeated Di Hao with his swords. The 7th Swordsman had defeated Jian Wu of the Sword Mountain 3 days ago, making his name known throughout Emperor Li's city. However, Di Hao had defeated Dong Qin and became known as the most powerful person below Saint Plain in all of Dali. Yet, the Imperial Advisor chose the 7th Swordsman to become his student instead. As such, Di Hao came there. No one expected Di Hao, who had defeated Dong Qin and was known to be at the pinnacle below Saint Plain in all of Dali, was defeated by the 7th Swordsman. Everything looked surreal. That is something. Li Yao, Lu Chuan, and the others were rather impressed. When the 7th Swordsman had defeated Jian Wu and became known as the number 1 swordsman below Saint Plain, he did not make any other moves after that. No one would have expected that he was more powerful than Di Hao. As for Li Yu, she was already gasping. Her eyes were locked onto 7th Swordsman, and she was utterly speechless. That swordsman from the lower worlds remained peerless even in the upper worlds. None below Saint Plain in all of Dali Dynasty was able to win against his swords. You have a problem? Yi Futian asked, his eyes locked onto Di Hao. The Imperial Advisor decided to take Yi Futian as his student, and Di Hao showed up to provoke Yi Futian. What do you mean by this? He thought. You think I don't deserve that? How about now? Do you have a problem? Di Hao was speechless. Losers had no right to speak. He had defeated the most powerful student of the Dali Academy, Dong Qin. He did not pay the 7 swordsmen any heed even when Yi Futian defeated the 7 sins that day, as his target was Dong Qin alone. No one would have expected that after defeating Dong Qin, he, who was lauded as invincible below Saint Plain, would have ended up being defeated by the 7 swordsmen. The 7th swordsman did not belong to any force before, even he was chosen by the Imperial Advisor. So the Imperial Advisor's eyes were really that sharp, then? Number 1 below Saint Plain in all of Dali Dynasty, huh? You should take my swords into consideration before claiming to be that, Yi Futian said and sheathed his sword. He let go of Di Hao and stepped back before saying to Lu Chuan and the others, "Let's go." Lu Chuan nodded and walked with Yi Futian, passing by Di Hao. Di Hao remained standing where he was, as did those from Daily Mountain. All of them were speechless. Countless watched Yi Futian and his party leave. Their hearts were still racing from the stunning scenes they witnessed. No one would have expected that the title of number 1 below Saint Plain in all of Dali dynasty had shifted to someone else so quickly. The seventh swordsman would come to be renowned throughout the world, as the personal student of the imperial advisor, and the number 1 below Saint Plain in all of Dali dynasty. His future became something foreseeable. No one would dare doubt how the imperial advisor chose his students. Many were impressed and came to wonder if the imperial advisor had long known that the seventh swordsman was capable of beating Di Hao. Yi Futian initially thought that the imperial advisor's residence would have been extremely magnificent and grand, due to its status as the residence of all who stood at such high positions in the Dali dynasty. Yi Futian initially thought that the imperial advisor's residence would have been extremely magnificent and grand, due to its status as the residence of all who stood at such high positions in the Dali dynasty. However, when he arrived outside the place, what he saw was but a rather common manor, which was in no way magnificent nor grand. Seeing Yi Futian stopping, Lu Chuan asked, "Surprised?" "Rather surprising indeed," Yi Futian said. "The value of a mountain is judged not by its height," Lu Chuan said nonchalantly. The title of Imperial Advisor's residence was more than enough. Yi Futian nodded and followed Lu Chuan into the place. Everyone else who were there to send them on the trip, including Li Yao and Li Yu, have left. The Imperial Advisor's residence was a private residence of the Imperial Advisor, with several personal students of his living within. While the place was not huge, but it was quaint and elegant nonetheless. The towers were placed in an artful manner. When Yi Futian saw the imperial advisor again, he found the elder standing before a tower. That place felt clean and simple to Yi Futian. "Teacher," Lu Chuan called as he bowed. "Yeah." The imperial advisor nodded and turned his eyes at Yi Futian. Yi Futian bowed and said, "The seventh swordsman hereby greets you, teacher. I don't have much of any rules around here. There is no need to be bound by mundane propriety. Do you find it surprising that I have chosen you to be my student this time?" The imperial advisor asked Yi Futian. "I'm rather surprised indeed." The seventh swordsman nodded. "The people of Dali all thought that you would have either picked Di Hao or Dongchen. Why did not pick me instead?" He had indeed wanted to know why the imperial advisor picked him. The Dali Academy holds a forum every year to either discuss battle or the way of cultivation. After the battle between Di Hao and Dongchen, I have asked all three of you about why did you seek the way. The imperial advisor spoke. Yi Futian nodded. He looked rather nervous back then. At that moment after entering the imperial advisor's residence, he actually became more relaxed. He reminded himself to be conscious of his current identity, the seventh swordsman, and forget about being Yi Futian. He did not bring his enmity and vengeance with him, as it would have exposed him instead. He was already mentally prepared to play his character well when he was on the way to the imperial advisor's residence. Dongchen and Di Hao answered in a similar manner. Both of them claimed to do so for Dali, but you sought the way more for yourself. People learn to love themselves before they learn to love others. I find that very agreeable. Faith is not something as simple as people often put it to be. When a person becomes cornered and forced to choose, faith would crumble all the same, the imperial advisor elaborated. But that shouldn't have sufficed to have you pick me as your student, Yi Futian added. Of course. The imperial advisor nodded and continued, what truly cemented my decision was the line behind, the great path knows no boundaries. People learn to love themselves before they could love others. People learn to be independent before they could be of aid to others. All of that coupled with the line, the great path knows no boundaries, would have sufficed, the imperial advisor said. Yi Futian looked at the middle-aged man. He never once thought that what cemented the imperial advisor's decision would have been his words back in the Dali Academy. You spoke of selfishness with the lines before, and altruism with the lines after. As such, I came to believe that if you were to become able to be independent, you would then be able to put the way that you believe in into action. The great path knows no boundaries. Yi Futian was very startled to find that the imperial advisor actually came to admire that line. When the imperial advisor pinned him down with great pressure, he was unable to lie and he did not want to. He never considered becoming a student of the imperial advisor in the first place, so he answered according to what he desired instead. However, the notion of the great path knows no boundaries was apparently different from what Emperor Li's realm adhered to. The crown prince, Li Sun, said immediately after that, claiming that the world was filled with boundaries. Emperor Li's realm, Emperor Xia's realm and whatnot, all of those were boundaries, and he questioned how could the great path be of no boundaries. The Battle of Empty Realm was an excellent example, as it was a culmination of the conflict between the three imperial realms. His impression of the imperial advisor of Dali had been that of a great pillar who devoted his being to make Dali dynasty strong, whose pressure overwhelmed all. He was unable to understand why someone like that would have agreed to that notion. He was indeed puzzled. How about you? I have heard that you have refused the offer to join the Sword Mountain. What changed your mind about taking up my offer? The imperial advisor asked. You are one who stands at the pinnacle of Emperor Li's realm, and you are known as the number one below His Majesty, teacher. How could I have refused? Yi Futian continued. Furthermore, if I were to refuse, would there be a place in Dali dynasty then? Would Li Xian come to be up to no good with me instead? If he were to refuse, none of those top-notch figures would have dared to get close to him. If the imperial advisor had not extended his invitation, there would not have been any problems, as he could have simply took other paths. You are indeed practical. So, that is to say that you don't actually want all that much to study under me then? You would have straight up challenged Di Hao otherwise. It was apparent that the imperial advisor knew that he had defeated Di Hao. Di Hao was powerful, comprehensively speaking, but his way of the sword might not have been more powerful than Jian Wu. I have already defeated Jian Wu, so I saw no reason to fight any further. And furthermore, it was like you put it, I haven't thought of studying under you before. To me, training could be carried out anywhere. Yi Futian was honest with his words. None of what he said right there had been lies. You are indeed prideful. The imperial advisor smiled and said, You are now a student of mine. What do you wish to learn from me then? Yi Futian looked up with pondering eyes. He was already half a saint at that moment and was indeed one step away from becoming a saint. What he lacked was comprehension of the world and the right state of mind. Powerful figures would have been of little help in teaching him more. The only way forward with his training rested on him and him alone. I'd like to read the literary collections of the Sword of Dali, Yi Futian said. All right. The imperial advisor did not hesitate, nodding in agreement to his request and said, You shall head to the library of Dali Academy together with your elder brother. There are countless books on cultivation in all of Dali, so there is naturally no lack of books on swords. Browse to your heart's contents. Furthermore, since you're versed in multiple types of will of the Great Path, you could learn from the different types of methods stored there and incorporate them in your way of the sword. I understand. Yi Futian stood and bowed. There should have been many top-notch training methods found within the library of Dali Academy. Pay a visit to your elder brothers while you're on your way to the Dali Academy, the imperial advisor said again. Will do. Yi Futian nodded again. The imperial advisor was the chief of Dali Academy, so it was only natural for his students to all be studying in Dali Academy. Furthermore, all of them had been from Dali Academy to begin with only Yi Futian being the exception. That was probably why everyone in Dali thought the imperial advisor would have taken Dong Chen as his student instead. You're dismissed. Lu Chuan would take you to your quarters. The imperial advisor said nothing else. Yes, teacher. Lu Chuan and Yi Futian left together. Lu Chuan arranged for a place for Yi Futian to stay in the imperial advisor's residence, which was in a quiet tower. Brother. Lu Chuan took out a storage ring and handed it to Yi Futian. What is this? Yi Futian asked. Some fragments of the ways of the sword, covering all attributes. While they might not be much, but you'd be able to train for quite some time with them to further your sword training, Lu Chuan smiled and said. I can't take this, Yi Futian said. This is a gift from teacher, Lu Chuan said. Yi Futian only stopped refusing and took it over. Rest earlier today. We'd head to Dali Academy tomorrow. Despite being a student of the teacher here in Imperial Advisor's residence, there is no need for you to attend to anything special. So you could just train here in peace and try to break into St. Plain as soon as possible, Lu Chuan said with a smile. Yeah. Yi Futian nodded and said, "Thank you, senior. This is nothing." Lu Chuan then added, "A younger brother used to live here and there are some things of his still around. No need to mind them." "Why would you let me stay here then?" Yi Futian able to somehow speculate something was going on, so he asked. "He died in battle." Lu Chuan sighed. Yi Futian was able to feel Lu Chuan's dejection and said, "I'm sorry. He had not joined us for long and should have had a bright future ahead of him." Lu Chuan shook his head and left. "We'll get the score settled at a later date." He left after he was done talking. Yi Futian did not know what to think. Yuan Jin died by his hands after all. At that moment he was arranged to stay in a place that Yuan Jin used to stay in. The Imperial Advisor and Lu Chuan. Yi Futian mumbled to himself. The Imperial Advisor agreed to the notion of the Great Path knowing no boundaries. He was still unable to fathom why, but he deemed that he would have understood given time. He sat cross-legged before the tower and closed his eyes to train, finding his mind in turmoil. He had used extremely little time to get to the heart of Dali and even get in contact with Li Yao directly. If he were to have no sense of preservation, he could have killed Li Yao right there and then. With his current identity, it became convenient for him to get in contact with Li Yao directly. Killing him became very easy. The problem, however, was how to escape in one piece after he was done. Yi Futian spent the day thinking, finding himself unable to quiet down. Dali Imperial City was just as restless as he was. The case with the Imperial Advisor taking in a student and the battle between the Seventh Swordsman and Di Hao became the talk of the town. There was simply no one who had not heard of the Seventh Swordsman by then. Lu Chuan returned to the Imperial Advisor and he was seen sitting on the floor, training. The Imperial Advisor asked after seeing Lu Chuan show up, "What is the problem, Lu Chuan?" "Teacher, the battle between little brother and Di Hao was a showcase of his immense combat capacity. Even I had gotten surprised," Lu Chuan said. "What are you getting at?" The Imperial Advisor asked. "Is there a need to check things out in the lower worlds, teacher?" Lu Chuan asked. "There is no need for that." The Imperial Advisor then said, "Remember, Lu Chuan, when I chose to make him a student of mine, he then became your little brother in training. Be it his past or future, there is no need to be bothered about it." "I understand." Lu Chuan bowed and left, putting the matter aside. Even if he were to venture down to the lower worlds, he would not have been able to find out anything. There was simply no way to investigate a person that just appeared out of nowhere, as there were no leads to trace. The Imperial Advisor looked up at the sky after Lu Chuan left. The stars were all over the night sky. His eyes were incredibly deep, as if he was able to pierce through the void above and see how the stars move. In Emperor Xia's palace, after Xia Qingyuan knew that Yi Futian was taken into the Imperial Advisor's residence to study under the Imperial Advisor, the sacred beat gave the black-winged condor another round of beating. The black-winged condor was in tears, swearing that it would not be called a qualified bird if it were to not get back to the one who gave it a good beating. Yi Futian had been away from Emperor Xia's realm for quite a while. A lot had happened since, but Yi Futian was without a doubt nowhere to be seen. Yi Futian had been away from Emperor Xia's realm for quite a while. A lot had happened since, but Yi Futian was without a doubt nowhere to be seen. In a compound found within the Shao clan's manor in Emperor Xia's realm, Shao Xing was coming to meet his father, Shao Qianhe. Shao Xing had been forbidden from stepping foot into Emperor Xia's palace since the end of the Battle of Empty Realm. This essentially meant that he was completely cut off from the center of power of Emperor Xia's realm for good. His status with the Shao clan had plunged since then, as he was no longer nurtured to be the next leader of the clan. Shao Xing experienced every bit of that difference in how his clansmen treated him, but he dedicated his efforts even more into his training to try to break through the obstacles posed by the plains. He would finally break into St. Plain to prove his worth to those of the Shao clan. He planned to venture out on a pilgrimage as soon as he stepped into St. Plain. However, despite having become half a saint by then, He was still unable to communicate with the great path of the world and become a saint. He came to Xiao Qinhe, his father's place on that day. "Father," Xiao Sheng bowed and called out. Xiao Qinhe looked up at Xiao Sheng and sighed deep down. Xiao Sheng was the most gifted among his children. "Why haven't you gone to train in isolation?" Xiao Qinhe asked. "I heard that the people of the Divine Cloud Valley are here. Are they here for the matter with Gongsun and I?" Xiao Sheng asked. Xiao Qinhe took a look at him and nodded. "The incident you kicked up was the talk of the town, and given how you've been mesmerized by a woman into doing what you were doing, the people of Divine Cloud Valley considered it best to avoid the matter between you and Gongsun and I." Xiao Sheng said nothing. He did not show any signs of hatred or anger on his face. He had long expected that things would have ended up as such. Both parties had thoughts about a marriage alliance, and they had discussed it before. But how things were at the moment, there was simply no way the Divine Cloud Valley would allow Gongsun and I to marry him. A lot has been going on in Emperor Xia's realm as of late, but Yi Futian is nowhere to be found. It's been said that even when the Divine Cloud Valley was crafting implements for the people of the 9 states, Yi Futian still didn't show up. Many claimed that he was training in isolation to break into Saint Plain. "I wonder if Yi Futian has been training in the Golden Hall of the Lotus in the royal palace all this while," Xiao Sheng said. Yi Futian was allowed free access to Emperor Xia's palace to train. He was even permitted to enter the Golden Hall of the Lotus, and that had been a compromise Xiao Sheng's aunt, Queen Xiao, made for his sake. Xiao Sheng, on the other hand, was practically in a ditch at the moment. The difference between the two men was very apparent. "Maybe," Xiao Kaine answered. "Why would the princess summon Yi Futian's demonic beast into the royal palace then? I have heard that the beast never left the royal palace since then. Is the beast training in the Golden Hall of the Lotus, just like Yi Futian?" Xiao Sheng asked. Xiao Qin had turned to look at his son as Xiao Sheng spoke. It seemed that even while he was training, Xiao Sheng paid close attention to Yi Futian's whereabouts, so much so that he had also paid attention to his demonic beast. "Some enmity you have there, indeed," Xiao Qinhe thought. "What are you getting at?" Xiao Qinhe asked. Yi Futian demonstrated his ability to enthrall demonic beasts in the Battle of Empty Realm. He was even able to control them remotely and did not need to be by their side. That black-winged condor steed of his was even able to receive his commands from far away. "Father, I'm wondering if that beast is training in the Golden Hall of the Lotus or if it simply is still in the princess residence," Xiao Sheng said. "Seems you've come to your conclusions. But even if the bird is indeed at the princess place, what do you think that means? That Yi Futian is there as well?" Xiao Qinhe then continued, "Even if Xia Qingyan has indeed let him stay at her place, it's still none of your business, given how even His Majesty is not bothered." His voice turned slightly serious. Despite feeling displeased with what had taken place, the incident was a lesson. Some matters were better left alone, regardless of how annoyed he was about them. Despite being her uncle, it was not Xiao Qinhe's place to butt into the princess business. "No," Xiao Sheng shook his head. "You should know well about the princess' personality, father. He might not be at her place. If the princess kept the bird at her place, it would naturally be for communication. That leads to the speculation if Yi Futian is even in the royal palace. Hell, for we all know, he might not even be in Emperor Xia's realm at the moment." Xiao Qinhe stared at Xiao Sheng. There was no doubt that vengeance would have served as good motivation at times. Due to harboring intense enmity towards Yi Futian, Xiao Sheng had been paying close attention to Yi Futian's whereabouts, and he came to an extremely accurate conclusion. "What are you saying then?" Xiao Kaine asked while looking at his son. "Even if Yi Futian is absent, there is still no need for the princess to keep his demonic beast. There is one other reason to be concerned." Xiao Sheng's expression became sharp. Yi Futian is now somewhere very dangerous, and that is why the princess needs to monitor him at all times. "Father, where do you think he ended up?" "You'd better keep the lesson from what happened last time," Xiao Kaine warned him. He felt that his son was about to do something perilous. "Rest assured, father. I've naturally learned my lesson." Xiao Sheng nodded and said, "I'll head back, father." He excused himself and left. Xiao Qinhe stared at his back as he went. The old man was thinking, "Where is Yi Futian?" Xiao Sheng's expression looked unusually cold when he turned around. Some speculations could have been easily verified. Despite being gone for quite a while, there were still quite a number of the people from the 9 states staying around. Xiao Sheng wanted to know if Yi Futian was still in Emperor Xia's realm. If he was not, then when would he return? Yi Futian came to Dali Academy once again, with Lu Chuan by his side. Many surrounded them when he stepped into the Dali Academy. The battle between the 7 swordsmen and Di Hao proved that he was the number 1 below Saint Plain in all of Dali dynasty and that he was stronger than Dong Qin. That, coupled with the fact that he became a student of the imperial advisor, naturally earned him a lot of attention. Many whispered among themselves when he walked inside the Dali Academy. Yi Futian paid no heed to those voices and followed Lu Chuan to a place of training. There were already several people waiting for them. It was evident that they knew Yi Futian was coming. The oldest student of the imperial advisor, Yan Yuan, was there. Other than Yan Yuan, 3 others emanated extraordinary bearing. "Greetings, elder brothers," Yi Futian called. He knew that those men were the students of the imperial advisor. "I suppose you know our eldest brother here. The one at the side is our second brother, Nanzhai. Third brother, Mu Chunyang. Fourth brother, Wang Zhong." Lu Chuan introduced them one by one to Yi Futian. Lu Chuan was the 5th and Yuan Jin was the youngest, but at that moment, it was Yi Futian. "Our little brother here is indeed handsome. I'm sure girls will like you very much." Nanzhai, their second brother, smiled and said. What Yi Futian found peculiar was that Nanzhai was different from the other students of the imperial advisor. He was of very advanced age and sported silver hair and a beard, looking even older than the imperial advisor himself. His eyes were not large, and they turned to slits when he smiled, looking very amicable. In comparison, their third brother, Mu Chunyang, emanated a far sharper aura. He had shoulder-length black hair and wore black clothing. He wore a curved blade on his back, making it apparent that he was a blade wielder. Their fourth brother, Wang Zhong, looked extremely sharp in the eyes, which shimmered with golden light. He seemed very young, almost the same age as Yi Futian, but his real age was not so. Wang Zhong was a saint of true self at the 2nd level of Saint Plain. In truth, Lu Chuan had introduced him to them before they came. All 5 personal students of the imperial advisor were very powerful. Their eldest brother, Yan Yuan, and their third brother, Mu Chunyang, were both unblemished saints at the 3rd level of Saint Plain. Nanzhai, who was the second brother, was inferior to the third in terms of plain level, as he was only a saint of true self. However, since he became the student of the imperial advisor at an earlier date, he became the second. Wang Zhong and Nanzhai were of the same plane, that of saint of true self. Lu Chuan was at the 1st level of Saint Plain, that of the doctrine saint. He was already at the pinnacle and would break into true self at any given moment. With Yuan Jin dead, the imperial advisor came only to have 5 students left. Even Lu Chuan, who was the weakest among them, had been someone whose name was the talk of Dali dynasty 10 years ago. One could have only imagined how prestigious being students of the imperial advisor were. It was due to such prestige that Di Hao wanted to study under the imperial advisor. After the imperial advisor chose Yi Futian instead, all of Dali imperial city was shaken. "Brothers, I seek only the way of the sword and have little interests in affairs with girls," Yi Futian replied. It was rumored that Nanzhai was of average talent, but he had a good state of mind. Despite being surpassed by Mu Chunyang, who had joined at a far later date than he, the incident became the talk of many. He remained unfettered and did not take it to heart. He was then 1 plane below his younger brother, Mu Chunyang. "It is good that you devote yourself to your seeking of the path, unlike your senior here, who gets distracted all the time and is now even surpassed by your third brother. Both you and Lu Chuan better not get too far with your training just yet. Remember to wait until your second brother here makes a breakthrough." Nanzhai smiled and said. Yi Futian felt somewhat speechless at his words. Was this how a big brother should behave? Don't listen to his crap. If you run into any problem with your training in the future, seek out our teacher. If that doesn't prove possible, you could ask second brother here, Mu Chunyang said. It would seem like the third brother still has a lot of trust in me still, Nanzhai nodded and quipped. You may not have much talent when it comes to training, but you are still an expert on empty talk, after all, Mu Chunyang replied. Cough cough, Nanzhai blushed and glared at Mu Chunyang. Leave some face for your elder brother, will you? I should go. Wang Zhong excused himself and left on his own. Yi Futian took one look at him, and Nanzhai said, That's fourth brother for you. Don't mind him. Yeah. Yi Futian nodded. He had always felt saints to be on pedestals when he was still at lower planes as if they were unreachable beings. However, when his plane level had gotten close, he quickly found out that other than being of different states of mind due to being on higher planes, there was not that much of a difference when it came to daily interactions. Saints and sages were but plane levels. They were still people. Seventh Swordsman, Yen Yuan said, If you run into any problems in training and you need answers, come to second brother. If you'd like to temper your body with the power of the saint, come to the third brother. Should you have any problems with mundane matters, feel free to look for Lu Chuan. If none of them can help solve your problem, come to me. I understand. Yi Futian nodded. Regardless of how exceptional and legendary Lu Chuan was, he was still the youngest among his fellow students. It reminded Yi Futian of the cottage. Regardless of how exceptionally talented he was the youngest brother. While his elder brothers and sisters cared for him a lot, they still liked to tease him when nothing was going on nonetheless. He had never expected to find a sense of familiarity in Dali. He did not know what to think of it. Thank you, brother, for helping me get out of the mess outside of the Dali Academy that day, Yi Futian said. He was naturally referring to the matter with Li Xian. Yen Yuan seemed neutral back then, but he was actually leaning against Li Xian to have him make compromises when Yen Yuan offered to help. Li Xian had ulterior motives, and I wasn't doing that for you. If he continues to harass you in the future, there will be no need for you to go easy on him. Just be mindful not to kill him, Yen Yuan said plainly. Understood. Yi Futian nodded and left, heading towards the library of the Dali Academy. The library of Dali Academy was one of the wealthiest places in all of Dali Dynasty in terms of the variety of books available. One could even say that if there was something more precious other than the palace of Dali Imperial City, it was the books stored in the library of Dali Academy. The library of Dali Academy was one of the wealthiest places in all of Dali Dynasty in terms of the variety of books available. One could even say that if there was something more precious other than the palace of Dali Imperial City, it was the books stored in the library of Dali Academy. Dali Dynasty was a royal force, and many of the most powerful books and records regarding the most powerful cultivation methods available were all found within the palace. Dali Academy earned the support of Emperor Li back then when the place was established all those years ago. As such, many of the books found within the library were copied from the ones in Emperor Li's palace. As the place had gotten increasingly established, the library of the Dali Academy had become something like a holy land among holy lands. Powerful books on cultivation were available in untold numbers to the students of Dali Academy for furthering their training. But then again, all students of Dali Academy couldn't have access to all of the books found within the library. Every single cultivator found in Dali Academy had a different level of clearance, and the forum event held every year at Dali Academy held the key to such clearance. However, Yi Futian skipped all of that and gained the highest level of clearance due to being a personal student of the Imperial Advisor. This allowed him access to any cultivation method found within the library. If the Imperial Advisor was to be said to be the supreme figure under Emperor Li in Emperor Li's city, then the statuses of the Imperial Advisor's personal students were about just below that of the princes and princesses. Even the descendants of the fourth prince dared not claim they had higher prestige than the students of the Imperial Advisor unless there were some exceptional figures on par with the students. Li Xian was a descendant of the Prince Regent, one of those from the third generation of the Prince Regent's residence. If he were to be compared with Lu Chuan or any of the Imperial Advisor students, no one would have taken Li Xian's status to be on par with that of Lu Chuan and the others. Many were descended from the princes, yet there were only 6 students who studied directly under the Imperial Advisor. Due to the need for separating the level of clearance between the students, The library of the Dali Academy was divided into 18 floors, and the building looked magnificent. When Yi Futian came to the library, there were many students of the Dali Academy found there, who were either found browsing the books on the racks or flipping through them on the benches. Seventh Swordsman. Someone quickly took notice of Yi Futian. More and more people lifted their heads to look at him with sparkling eyes. The seventh swordsman was then the number 1 below Saint Plain in Dali Imperial City. Seventh swordsman, how powerful was Di Hao? A beautiful female student asked with a smile. Yi Futian glanced at her and walked away without replying. The place was in an uproar right there and then. Many whispered and mumbled among themselves, finding him to be just as flippant and arrogant as he was rumored to be. However, none of them felt that there was anything wrong with him. He was the number 1 below Saint Plain in Dali Dynasty after all, so it was only natural that he had the right to be arrogant. That was the seventh swordsman they knew. Aloof indeed. The woman who was ignored smiled and did not take his response to heart, thinking that he was extremely handsome and that his eyes seemed to be able to enchant people. He was indeed one of a kind among geniuses. Yi Futian went directly to some of the upper floors in the library, browsing through a good number of books on swordsmanship and then some other methods of training as well. The very reason why he chose to come to the library first was so that he was able to train in more powers, which he would then incorporate within his way of the sword, developing sword arts that were uniquely his. Furthermore, even if he were to use some other powers in future battles, nobody would have found anything off with him. Other than that, he was indeed genuinely interested in furthering his training to improve his powers and to comprehend the great path better. He was already capable of moving towards sainthood at present, after all. Godslayer Sword. Sword Sutra of the Void. Yi Futian found several books on swordsmanship and flipped through them. All of them were sword arts that allowed the user to attack spiritual will directly. Among the techniques found within the Godslayer sword was the Godslayer sword matrix. Yi Futian thought that might have been something that he had experienced quite a while ago. The 9 mighty ones that Li Yao sent to participate in the sacred war all those years ago used that sword techniques, which allowed them to kill gods. He flipped through several other books on footwork, which he found useful for disguising the footwork of Shenyuan. Some of the methods found in the upper floors of the library were hardly any weaker than those found in the Golden Hall of the Lotus in Emperor Xia's palace. Due to having the highest level of clearance, he was able to browse the most powerful methods of training available in the library. Yi Futian spent days training in the library. When he came to develop some realization, he went on to sit in a corner and develop them further. While it was impossible for him to unleash any powers in the library itself, he was nonetheless able to simulate them in his life palace. Yi Futian walked out of the library after training for many days. Many of the students were astonished to find that the seventh swordsman was indeed a maniac of the sword, who was after nothing but furthering his path and his art in swordsmanship further. However, to Yi Futian, since he was already peerless below the saints at his current state, and he was also a student of the imperial advisor, there was indeed little that he sought after. Yi Futian looked for information on Nanzhai's training ground as soon as he left the library and came to the second brother. Yen Yuan once said that if he needed answers on furthering his path, he would look for Nanzhai. Nanzhai was painting and looking carefree and peaceful when Yi Futian came where he was. I heard that you are of supreme state of mind. You indeed look carefree and unbridled. Yi Futian mumbled to himself deep down, getting ready to evaluate Nanzhai's artwork. However, when he did come look at the painting that Nanzhai was working on, he felt as if he went to the wrong person. The strokes were unruly and in a total mess, without any rules or traditions that one was able to find in most artwork. He was unable to tell what Nanzhai was painting. What do you think of my work, little brother? Nanzhai asked. Good, Yi Futian said. How so? Nanzhai smiled and looked at Yi Futian. Good in the sense that I'm unable to see anything from it, Yi Futian replied earnestly. Nanzhai was dumbfounded but then smiled and nodded. You speak truthfully. He then put his brush down and looked at Yi Futian, asking, I've heard that you've been spending days training in the library. What brings you here today? Brother, I've come to comprehend multiple wills of the great path in my training, enabling me to merge them to become my own and turn them into my attacks, but I'm still unable to get to Saint Plain. I even think that Saint Plain seems to be very far away from me, and I'm unable to find the way in. Yi Futian continued, I'm here to ask for your guidance. Sainthood is flawless. What does flawless mean in this case? My brother, Nanzhai then looked at Yi Futian and said with a solemn tone, you have comprehended many wills of the great path, and you are peerless below the saints. Why do you need to be in a hurry to reach sainthood? Seeking the path is tiring, and there are countless in the Dali Academy that talk about you. I'm sure that there are many very, very beautiful girls among the students who have taken a liking to you. If you're willing to talk to them about life, it would be wondrous. Don't you think? Yi Futian felt that he came to the wrong person. Was this really that Nanzhai, that second student of the Imperial Advisor, who was said to have a transcendental state of mind? Guess I'll just head to the library then. Yi Futian turned around and was about to leave. Gosh, what a waste of those good looks. Nanzhai shook his head sighing, then asked, so what do you think flawless means? One has who has no regrets in their mind and who is devoted to seeking the path. Yi Futian asked. Saints notwithstanding, not even the Renhuang, could claim that they have no regrets. Nanzhai said, what flawless illustrates is a state of mind. It doesn't speak of being devoid of regrets, but rising above them. Please enlighten me, brother. Yi Futian came to seek guidance earnestly. There is no such thing as a truly perfect state of mind. Be it a doctrine, true self, or unblemished states. None could truly achieve absolute perfection. Nanzhai then elaborated, I don't agree to how such states of mind are said to be flawless. I think that the state of mind of saints should be illustrated as transcendental instead. What do you mean? Yi Futian asked. Have you heard of the expression of, the mind of a person is measured in square inches? Nanzhai asked. I have. Yi Futian nodded. That is the size of a person. There is only so much a place measured in square inches can hold. Although you have comprehended many wills of the great path and use your development for attacks in battle, you're still trapped within that piece of space measured in square inches, and that is why you cannot become a saint. Nanzhai then continued, that applies to everyone. The saint plane is a plane that requires all-around elevation. As for transcendence, there are two types to it. One being of deep-rooted persistence, breaking through that space measured in square inches through sheer brute force and meld with the great path. Even if these people could achieve transcendence and become saints, every step they would have taken in the future would be hampered by their states of mind, making it difficult for them to get far on their path of sainthood. An overwhelming majority of such saints would have hit a dead end, their very limit, when they reached the state of true self, never able to move further forever. But then again, if some saints are indeed able to step even further, they would become terrifying beings indeed. Nanzhai's words caused Yi Futian to twitch. For some reason, that reminded him of one person, the glass saint. Her deep-rooted hatred and obsession allowed her to break through that space measured in square inches. Even if they were to get to the unblemished stage, such states would still actually be flawed. As such, I believe much more in the other kind of transcendence. Nanzhai continued, it is a kind of transcendence that I find difficult to place with words. For instance, you seek the way of the sword. If there shall be a day when you find that you could do with the way of the sword, you would still be practicing the way of the sword, even if you were never to use a sword again, and that would be transcendence. Or, for instance, there is someone who keeps pursuing one thing, but one day, they just found that they became able to put that one thing down, let go, and move on to encompass all. That, too, is transcendence. Or, yet, another example. Someone who spent their life seeking the way, was then met with a life and death situation, but found that they became able to let go of everything and see their situation in a tranquil manner. Their state of mind transcended the state of life and death. That, yet again, would be transcendence. This is my take on the matter of transcendence. Everyone has their unique experience with it, but you are in a transcendental state of mind. You will then be able to break through that space measured in square inches, melding your mind with the great path, and achieved the towering heavenly state of mind. The heavenly path shall then take notice and rain the catastrophe of the great path upon you, Nanzhai elaborated slowly. Yi Futian felt insightful and enlightened. He was able to recall several people from Nanzhai's elaborations. The number 1 below saints in Lihen heaven, the edge of pinnacle below Saint Plain, Wangchuan. He lost to Yi Futian at the 33rd layer of heaven in Lihen heaven on that day. He struggled against his loss in pain but then chose to let go. He then transcended and merged with the great path. He transcended his ego at that moment. His teacher, Dezhun, fought a life-and-death battle in the Holy Ji Palace in the 9 states all those years ago. Huang Shi borrowed the will of Renhuang in the imperial mausoleum to fight. Both of them put their lives aside and transcended everything, enabling them to achieve sainthood. As Nanzhai put it, such transcendence was the true state of mind of saints. A space measured in square inches would not have been able to meld with the world. Thank you for your guidance, brother. Yi Futian bowed. That conversation made him realize that the second student of the imperial advisor, Nanzhai, was the real deal. Well, we're a family, so no need to be polite about it. As such, don't fuss yourself over too much with seeking the way. Put it aside for a change and to talk to a girl about life. You might be able to achieve that required open state of mind and be on your way to sainthood. Nanzhai narrowed his eyes to a slit smiling and said. Yi Futian became utterly speechless, then said, I'll look for the third brother next then. He left as soon as he finished. The third student of the imperial advisor, Mu Chunyang, had a totally different personality with Nanzhai. His shoulder-length hair had a clean, clear-cut image. The third student of the imperial advisor, Mu Chunyang, had a totally different personality with Nanzhai. His shoulder-length hair had a clean, clear-cut image. He was training with his eyes closed when Yi Futian came. Yi Futian stood at the side and waited quietly instead of bothering him. Mu Chunyang was an unblemished saint at the 3rd level of Saint Plain. With extremely rare handful of holiness of nirvana, they were at the pinnacle of the top-notch figures to be found in the dynasty. Even Nanzhai was of an inferior state than him. Mu Chunyang opened his eyes a short while later and said to Yi Futian, Little brother. Third brother, I've just came from second brother's place and I've asked him something about sainthood. I'm here to experience the will of the great path, Yi Futian said. It was something Yen Yuan told him before. The eldest brother definitely had his reasons to put it that way. He was naturally able to tell that the eldest student of the imperial advisor, Yen Yuan, was of extremely high prestige, right below their teacher. Yeah. Mu Chunyang nodded. Your second brother is indeed more carefree. But actually, he proves more than adequate to teach you and to have you experience the great path. Is second brother really just a saint of true self? Yi Futian asked. Nanzhai felt to be carefree and unbridled, so his state of mind must have been in excellent condition. One state of mind was of utmost importance when training in Saint Plain. Nanzhai should have had very high upper limit instead. Is he really just trapped by his lacking talents, preventing his plane from reaching higher heights? He really is indeed a saint of true self. While teacher said that second brother is rather slow in training and somewhat lacking in talents, but he had the best temperament among us all. If there were to actually be one who became enlightened in just a day, that would have been second brother. Perhaps he might end up being faster in making breakthroughs than any of us. Even I have to ask him for guidance many times after all, Mu Chunyang said. Despite being of higher plane than Nanzhai, but he was apparently very respectful of the second brother nonetheless. Is that so? Yi Futian felt rather puzzled. At the very least, his current vista did not allow him to see that far. He was there at Dali Imperial City for 2 reasons, revenge and training on pilgrimage. The trip would have benefited him a lot, even if he did not end up being able to kill Li Yao. However, that short amount of time Yi Futian spent with the imperial advisor had surprisingly diminished his enmity against the older man. The imperial advisor that he knew back in Emperor Xia's realm and the one he came to know at present were different. That was not to say that the imperial advisor had changed, but that he was able to look from a different perspective due to being of different identity. If you want to experience the will of the great path, I'd like to know if you're ready now? Mu Chunyang asked. Yi Futian's expression had gotten somewhat more serious and then nodded. I'm ready. Mu Chunyang's expression changed entirely, looking extremely sharp. At the very next moment, Yi Futian felt as if everything around him changed and the world was no longer the same. The will of the blade shrouded their surroundings, and he felt as if he became surrounded by curved blades. His robe billowed and felt he was about to suffocate. The will of the blade rained down on him directly. The next thing he felt was as if extremely sharp blades around him were coming down him, streaking down on the heavens and landed right before him. His breathing stopped and was unable to breathe. The will of the blade had gotten increasingly strong and his entire world seemed to have been turned into the world of the blade. Formless blades bloomed before him and lashed out on him in a frenzy. Heavenly might rained down through the vast region of blades. Yi Futian felt himself to be insignificant, as if he was but a chestnut floating at sea. However, Mu Chunyang never budged throughout the entire time. He simply sat where he was. At that moment, he lifted his hand forward. Yi Futian was able to sense clearly in that split second that the region of blades was held by him in that very moment. He took control of that supreme power in that space simply by extending his hand. When one becomes a saint, their mind merges with that of the cosmos. The path is the nature and the person becomes the path, reigning over the heavens and the earth. Mu Chunyang's voice was heard. He flicked lightly with his finger, sending boundless will of the blade sweeping by Yi Futian like devastating storms. However, all of that dissipated within mere moments, as if nothing had been there in the first place. Hu! Yi Futian exhaled for quite some time, feeling refreshed. He had been in hell for one moment and in heaven the next. The saint plane was one of transcendence. The mind, which had been one measured merely in square inches, became towering, encompassing the entire world, mastering the way of the cosmos. Thank you, brother, Yi Futian said. Mu Chunyang's blade felt exceptionally strong to him and the impact was very direct. Yeah. Mu Chunyang nodded. But then again, sages becoming saints are something that would naturally happen. It isn't something that happens overnight, and not something that comes just because one is extra hardworking at it. It'd be best that you place higher emphasis in how you develop your comprehension. You're now half a saint, and pure training is of little help by now. Yi Futian nodded. That was how cultivation was. One might have experienced it, one might have seen it, one might have even been able to wrap their head around it, but one still might not have been able to achieve it. That was how mystical planes were. There would not have been countless who were stuck below saint levels, not being able to pass into the next phase otherwise. Yi Futian was able to comprehend multiple wills of the great path, which was a testament of his uncanny talents at cultivation. It was worth noting that he had never ran into much obstacles at such stages, but countless in the 9 states were shut out altogether by those stages. I should take my leave, brother. I would come here to comprehend further in the future, Yi Futian said. You're welcomed here any time. Mu Chunyang nodded and Yi Futian left. Since he had become a student of the imperial advisor of Dali, he would have gone with the flow and trained in silence, making his way to achieve sainthood. As for killing Li Yao, timing was of the utmost importance, as the prince was not someone he could have killed just because he wanted to. If he were to continue training under the imperial advisor, the chance would have presented itself sooner or later. At that moment, Li Yao showed up at Dali Academy. Yi Futian ran into Li Yao when he was returning to the library of the Dali Academy. 7th Swordsman, Li Yao called. What business do you have with me, Your Highness? Yi Futian walked up to him and asked. His tone was unusually calm despite his enemy being right in front of him, without any signs of emotional fluctuations showing. Right. Li Yao smiled and nodded. You remember the sword of Kasayapa? Naturally, Yi Futian said. Both the 7 sins and Di Hao used the sword of Kasayapa, and it was indeed formidable. King Tiandao's people sent the sword techniques to the palace and I specifically had it copied, ready to be stored at the highest level of the library. Well, you're versed in the arts of space and you could train in the sword of Kasayapa's techniques. That should do a lot in strengthening and completing your way of the sword, Li Yao smiled and said. Emperor Li ruled over everything in Dali dynasty. King Tiandao was an elder brother of Emperor Li himself. King Tiandao had acquired the supposedly lost art of the sword of Cassiopeia, and both Di Hao and the Seven Sins had used them in public. As such, it was natural that King Tiandao sent a copy to the Emperor Li's palace. However, Liao brought it to the Dali Academy shortly after. One could have only imagined how would King Tiandao have felt about it. But then again, King Tiandao's reactions were rather predictable. The people of Daoli Mountain were irritated specifically because Dali Academy had too much access to cultivation resources of Dali dynasty. As for Liao, he was originally a student of the imperial advisor in name. Yuan Jin died in battle for his sake in the Battle of Empty Realm as well. Under such circumstances, he naturally would have chosen to get closer with the imperial advisor's people. He had maintained a very amicable relationship with Yuan Jin. With Yi Futian being the newest student and of the same generation as he was, he saw fit to get on Yi Futian's good side and become friends with the newcomer. "Thank you for your effort, Your Highness," Yi Futian said. "Well, let's head first to the arena instead of the library. We'll have you take a look at the sword of Cassiopeia first." Liao took Yi Futian's arm and led him forward, as if they were really close friends, and he did not seem to care that he was a prince in the first place. Yi Futian took one look at the arm and went along with Liao. If it had not been for what Liao did and that Yi Futian was the seventh swordsman might have actually become friends with the prince. However, some things were predestined. He and Liao were irreconcilable enemies, and only one of them would have came out alive if they were to clash. Liao's intention to kill him was not any less intense than his towards Liao. Yi Futian sat on the ground cross-legged at the area, circled by sword wills all around him. The sword of Cassiopeia was particular about controlling sword will with one's will, materializing said will into tangible forms and fusing will of great path into it, enabling one's will to be able to wield the manifested blade perfectly. Yi Futian possessed the perfect requirements for training in the sword of Cassiopeia, and he was a swordsman himself. It did not take him long after comprehending the sword techniques, that the sword will around him coalesced in a frenzy, turning into dazzling, leaf-shaped sword, which rang as it pulsed with formidable will of great path of space. "Go!" Yi Futian extended his hand and swiped. His will activated and the sword of Cassiopeia streaked through the air. The will of his entire being flew with the blade, maintaining tight control on the blade's movements. "This is something," Liao exclaimed, feeling impressed. That sword of Cassiopeia that streaked through the air circled around him, ringing at deafening high pitches. At that moment, a beam of cold light flashed by and the space seemed to have been torn apart and a sword burst through the air. Liao felt his entire being shivering in coldness right there and then. The sword appeared right before Liao, mere inches away from his throat. It would have taken Yi Futian only one intention to have the sword pierce right through the prince's throat. Liao's expression turned serious. His heart raced at that brief moment. He only let out a bitter smile and shook his head when he saw the blade flew upwards and circled around the space right above him. He was rather baffled by how shaken he was. It was impossible for the seventh swordsman to kill him right there and then after all. "Your Highness, I was just thinking of showcasing how precise my control of the sword of Cassiopeia was to you. I beg your forgiveness," Yi Futian said, but his tone hardly sounded apologetic, behaving just as boisterous and unruly as the seventh swordsman had been known to be. In that brief moment back then, he had actually really wanted to stuck the blade into Liao's throat and taking his revenge. However, he bit down on the urge nonetheless. He had molded the wild, unruly image of the seventh swordsman specifically for Liao, but he had never expected Liao to deliberately get close to him and buy him over. It was different from how he planned it, but that hardly mattered. If he were to make a move right there and then and kill Liao, he would have succeeded easily, but he would have also died a horrible death for it. That was apparently not how he wanted things to be. "No matter." Liao smiled dismissively and said, "That attack is indeed fast, as expected of the sword of Cassiopeia indeed. If it was to be used in battle, one attack would have been enough to cut someone's throat off. Furthermore, that all comes from the first sword materialized. Your Highness, the sword of Cassiopeia requires extremely powerful control to wield. That was just one blade. If there were to be more, control wouldn't have been so easy, and I doubt control could have been at such precision, Yi Futian replied. Well, I believe you would be able to pull it off somehow with your talents. Li Yao gave his approval. Yi Futian spent some more time training after that. When he came to have solid control with the sword of Cassiopeia, he left together with Li Yao. One could have only imagined how Li Yao would have felt about things, if he were to found out that he was helping Yi Futian train. When Yi Futian was still training in Dali Dynasty, the countless beings went about their lives as usual in the vast, seemingly boundless Emperor Xia's realm. When Yi Futian was still training in Dali Dynasty, the countless beings went about their lives as usual in the vast, seemingly boundless Emperor Xia's realm. There was a seemingly endless desert at the western end of Emperor Xia's realm, with one city after another built from dirt in it, and there were countless people training in the cities. That region was known for being chaotic. There were no top-notch forces ruling over the place, and as such, many barbaric forces continued to grow by practicing and living in their barbaric ways. There was a dirt city at the center of the seemingly endless desert region, which produced 3 extremely powerful figures little more than a year ago, who gathered people and ruled over the dirt city. Many claimed that all 3 of them were saints. However, the 3 were unusually low-profiled and never appeared in public, making them all the more mysterious. Still, there continued to be people who wanted to meet and train with those 3 mighty ones. Many brought precious gifts when they went to meet them. On that day, there was a figure who wore conical hat who came to meet the 3 in the cave where they trained in. A group of people walked under the hot sun in silence. The cultivator with the hat and 2 other muscled cultivators who bared their upper bodies continued on their way. Do you really have sacred spirit stones to offer with you? The muscled man asked the young man with the hat. How many lives do you think I have for daring to lie to the revered ones? I'm going on this trip to get myself a teacher, the young man with the hat replied. The other 2 nodded without asking anything further. They initially intended to offer the stones personally, but the young man with the hat refused, being on guard against them and insisting to offer the stones himself. As such, they had no choice but to bring him along. They came before a cave of cultivation which looked like a mountain in dirt yellow colors on the outside. However, the place was actually totally different on the inside, looking extravagant and was decorated such that the place looked like majestic palaces. They walked all the way to the depths of the palace, and a regal figure was seen sitting on top of the steps above. There were precious beverages laid before him, and he was attended to by voluptuous, alluring women. There were 2 other figures who sat by his side, and they too enjoyed themselves as well. We heard that you have sacred spirit stones with you, no? The man at the forefront asked the ones who came. The young man took his hat off and nodded, before extending his hand and showing a piece of dazzling sacred spirit stone. It was a surprisingly huge piece and of very high quality. The regal figure on the chair locked his gaze at the stone, then stared the smiling young man below and said, "Who are you?" The aura on the young man shifted and the expressions of those men changed, looking extremely serious. The aura of that young man continued to change, becoming increasingly powerful. It's been quite an effort to find you, saints. It's rather surprising to find that you still know how to enjoy yourself after coming to the upper worlds, the young man said with a smile. The aura that he emanated was that of the saints. The figure at the forefront was shaken to the core. The other 2 at his side stood up, their aura bursting intensely. Out all of you. The mighty one who was addressed as a saint by the young man ordered. All the others left the scene while he glared at that young man, asking, "Who the hell are you?" "I come in peace, seeking cooperation from you, saint. This piece of sacred spirit stone is a token of my sincerity." The young man offered the stone again and said, "You're rather poor at disguises. So this is how you show that you're sincere? By disguising who you really are?" It was apparent that he knew that the young man was not showing his real face. "I could say the same about you. The human face mask that you're wearing is just as poorly made," the young man jabbed sarcastically. Terrifyingly powerful aura shrouded the entire cave, and the other stepped forward. The young man glanced at the 3 and the strength of his aura continued to rise. He then said coldly, "Saint Shihua, You'd better think things through, given how I actually dare to show up here in front of you. If you want to do it the hard way, I'd suggest that you think of the consequences. The figure at the forefront was none other than the Saint Lord of Shihua Sacred Mountain, Saint Shihua. There was no need to say much about the identities of the other two. After leaving the 9 states back then, all 3 of them came to train in the upper worlds. Yi Futian's name became known all over the place later, becoming like the sun at high noon. They did not care to linger at the core regions of Emperor Xia's realm, and so they came to the western edges to train in seclusion, to advance their plane of training further. What are you after? Saint Shihua no longer asked about the young man's identity, and had instead inquired his intentions. I'm sure you have never expected Yi Futian to rise to fame that quickly. He is now held in high regard by the princess, and even his majesty took a liking to him. Well, it's not all that too difficult to comprehend why you're forced to hide your face from the world. The young man continued his sarcastic jab. But then again, do you think all you do here is of any use, Saint? You're only being kept around by His Majesty because he did not bother to lift a finger against you people. But as Yi Futian's status continued to rise, how long do you think you could continue living like this? Saint Shihua's face was ashen. He had of course remembered the time when Emperor Xia gathered and talked with him. He had long suspected that he was possibly being watched. You should believe what I said, given how I'm able to locate you after all. The young man continued, as for my intentions coming here, it's pretty simple. Both the Sword Saint of the Void and the Glass Saint are now training in the upper worlds. The 9 states are left rather powerless. Why don't you ally with those of the Hall of Holy Light and kill the saints of the Holy Ji Palace? The sacred war is not over with them around. Even His Majesty would have to admit to that. Saint Jiang is at Barren State now, and there are still other saints around. Saint Ji was placed under house arrest by Emperor Xia, so there was no way he would have dared step outside. Even without the Sword Saint of the Void and the Glass Saint around, do you think you could actually the Barren State as they are now? Saint Shihua retorted coldly. Didn't you see that I've brought a piece of sacred spirit stone with me? That should be enough to allow you to recruit saints to help you people out. There are bound to be those who would get moving when the price is right. Furthermore, all of this are still within the boundaries set by His Majesty's rules, so long as you do not go on a killing spree against those below Saint Plain. The young man continued, even if you were to fail, all of you would still be able to escape right away. The stone would still be yours, and you're free to use it to further your training. Of course, you are free to refuse if you want to, Saint. But Yi Futian would then know of your whereabouts sooner than he should have, the young man said. Saint Shihua looked extremely glum at that point. Whether he liked it or not, he had to agree to it. What are you getting from doing all of this? Saint Shihua asked coldly. He wanted to know of the young man's identity and his reasons for doing all of that. Judging from his powers, is he having a grudge against the people of the Barren State? All of that seems to be utterly pointless. I'm not getting much of anything out of this. It's all just a game to me. Just pretend that you have never met me. I'd need to see results within a month, or get ready to see Yi Futian showing up at your door with his men otherwise. By the way, don't mention anything about me if anything were to go south. It seems that you've sired an offspring after coming to the upper worlds, so you've seemingly planned things out indeed. If anything were to happen to you, I'd look after your kid in your stead. The young man smiled before putting on his hat and left. It was truly but a game to him. Saint Shihua's face was all pale as he saw the aura of that young man continue to dissipate. Several shrieks of terror were heard from outside. Saint Shihua knew that there were people who were being silenced. Even if he had never even seen the true face of that man, the mysterious young man chose to simply just silence other unrelated ones around regardless, as well as threatening him to never mention anything about seeing him. It was an unnerving level of caution being practiced right there, leaving no tracks behind at all. If he were to act against the Barren State, then it would have all been him acting for his own sake. He had a score to settle with the Holy Ji Palace to begin with after all. That was probably what that young man had his eyes on. Saint Shihua felt himself shivering all over at that moment. If there were to be someone who dared to pull something like that under the reign of Emperor Xia, then the man who dared to do so would have been a very terrifying background. Xia Qingyuan received news half a month later that Saint Shihua had returned to the 9 states of the lower worlds. She caught wind in her residence that there was someone who leaked that information, and that her father had sent people to notify him. There were things that Emperor Xia found inconvenient to interfere after all. Relay my orders. Summon the ones at the cottage villa to the royal palace. We shall head to the lower worlds from the royal palace. Xia Qingyuan said. She then rose right away and made for the teleportation grand matrix. The battle was already raging when Xia Qingyuan and the others arrived at the Holy Ji Palace of the Barren State. The battles between saints took place right above the Holy Ji Palace. Other than Saint Shihua, there was another saint at second level of Saint Plain taking on Saint Jiang. The 3 saints of Shihua Sacred Mountain and 2 other saints of the Hall of Holy Light were taking on Dozhan and the others. Saint Ji of the Hall of Holy Light was placed under house arrest, and the mighty ones of the Hall of Holy Light never dared to step outside ever since. They came to deem that it would have been more advantageous to strike first instead of simply continue to wait around. As such, the saints agreed to Saint Shihua's proposal. Saint Shihua and his men naturally took notice of Xia Qingyuan's presence. They all felt cold deep down. It was apparent that the princess had picked her side. Princess, are we going to help them out? Some mighty ones at Xia Qingyuan's side asked telepathically. They are able to take care of themselves at the moment, Xia Qingyuan replied. When Divine Cloud Valley crafted divine implements for the mighty ones of the 9 states, several really potent ones were sent to the lower worlds. The Black Wind Condor showed up at Xia Qingyuan's side at the moment. As such, Yi Futian naturally caught wind of the news. The Black Wind Condor then turned its eyes at Xia Qingyuan and said, "Could you order your men to act?" Xia Qingyuan looked at the bird and knew right away that it was Yi Futian who was talking to him. She had long subjugated the bird, robbing it of the gall to be insolent around her. The rules of the sacred war of the 9 states were laid down by Father. Xia Qingyuan looked at the bird, and the huge eyes of the bird continued to stare at her. Xia Qingyuan turned her eyes away and said to him telepathically with a cold expression, "If there were to be anyone who was caught in a life-and-death situation, I shall make an exception. Right now, they could still take care of things themselves." "Thank you, Princess." The Black Wind Condor answered telepathically. Those huge eyes of the bird turned around to glare at Saint Shihua and the others. So this Saint Shihua had actually managed to get another saint down to the lower worlds, and helped to assault the Holy Ji Palace of the Barren State then. Seems like Saint Shihua and the Hall of Holy Light would always be disasters waiting to happen if they were to be left unattended to then. When would you be ending your training in Dali? Xia Qingyuan asked again. No idea. The bird replied and dived forward, intending to join in the fray. Xia Qingyuan's eyes flashed with a hint of anger as she saw the Black Wind Condor fly away. That be ****ard. She heard last that the imperial advisor of Dali was being very nice to Yi Futian and had not doubted him in the slightest. At the moment, he was getting ready to break into Saint Plain in Dali Imperial City. Xia Qingyuan was rather irked deep down hearing all of that. Several saints were fighting intensely above the Holy Ji Palace. The Black Wind Condor descended to the battlefield where Dozhan was. Despite having yet to become a saint, the bird was only but a step away into Saint Plain, so it was still able to help out nonetheless. Several saints were fighting intensely above the Holy Ji Palace. The Black Wind Condor descended to the battlefield where Dozhan was. Despite having yet to become a saint, the bird was only but a step away into Saint Plain, so it was still able to help out nonetheless. Seeing how the attacks were not getting effective and how Xia Qingyuan appeared right before them, Saint Shihua came to realize something. Xia Qingyuan would have probably not given him any chance. He came to resent the state of affairs at the moment. Xia Qingyuan was the daughter of Emperor Xia, and if even her had already picked a girl, there was no way he would have been able to go against Yi Futian. The balance of the sacred war had become skewed. When he chose to bail when he lost the battle back then, they were destined to stay as losers of the war. He had initially intended to just continue to train while staying hidden. But given how there were others who insisted on forcing him to act, He saw no choice but to comply. If the princess is already here, then Yaya and the glass saint wouldn't be far behind. Saint Shihua mumbled to himself and then said, "Retreat." He flashed and retreated right away. All the others retreated from the battlefield one after another, distancing themselves from the ones they were attacking. Saint Jiang and the others from the Holy Ji Palace did not pursue to assailants, as their current lineup was not really all that powerful. "Let's go." Saint Shihua and the others left right away. The black-winged condor's eyes were cold and pointed, flashing with a hint of puzzlement as it saw the figures leaving. They're going to leave just like that? Is it because of Xia Qingyuan? It seemed that Saint Shihua was not hell-bent on getting his revenge and appeared rather cowardly. In actual fact, Saint Shihua never wanted revenge, but there was someone who forced him to act. Although he had no idea what the other party was trying to do, but he did what he promised to do. With Xia Qingyuan showing up personally, he simply bailed right away, as he deemed it enough to fulfill his promise. The black-winged condor's cold eyes swept around the battlefield. There were quite a number of people injured. However, to saints, injuries would have been inconsequential so long as they were not grievous. The bird flapped and came to Xia Qingyuan's side, saying to her telepathically, "Princess, do you mind doing me a favor? You want to know the whereabouts of Saint Shihua and the others?" Xia Qingyuan replied telepathically. She naturally knew what Yi Futian was up to. The bird nodded. "Father was sending men to look into it. What you're doing now is asking me to violate the rules of the sacred war." Xia Qingyuan then added, "Furthermore, Saint Shihua and the others still serve my father after all." Yi Futian naturally did not buy any of Xia Qingyuan's bullsh***. Saint Shihua probably harbored only resentment for Emperor Xia at that moment. If there was a choice to be had, he would have left Emperor Xia's realm instead. As for Xia Qingyuan, he found it baffling that the woman was talking to him about rules. "I need only news. His Majesty and you, Princess, wouldn't need to lift a finger, so you would not be violating His Majesty's decree," the black-winged condor said telepathically. "You'll talk when you get back." Xia Qingyuan glanced at the black-winged condor plainly. The bird glared at Xia Qingyuan, feeling an urge to do something right there and then. "Boss, no." The black-winged condor sensed Yi Futian's intentions and became scared. The blue phoenix sacred beast was right beside Xia Qingyuan after all. If Yi Futian were to actually do something right there and then, it would have been the bird to suffer the consequences instead. As for the matter of getting back at the blue phoenix, that would be something saved for a later date. "I'd like to request that you notify the Moon Saint and have him be on guard. I'd leave the matters on this side in your hands, Princess," the black-winged condor said. Since he was still far away in Dali, the matters right there and then naturally fell into Xia Qingyuan's hands. They needed to be on guard since Saint Shihua had actually made a move. As for him, it was naturally impossible for him to just return right away. All of his previous efforts would have been wasted otherwise. "All right." Xia Qingyuan nodded. "So this guy finally learned some manners, huh?" Yi Futian, who was training in Dali Imperial City, opened his eyes, which flashed with a hint of coldness. He never expected Saint Shihua to actually appear out of nowhere after all that time. It was fortunate that the Holy Ji Palace had become extremely powerful at the moment, and they were not all that easily shaken. Even if Saint Shihua was able to actually hire a saint of true self from the upper worlds to aid him, it did not actually work as planned. Nonetheless, it would have been better if he were to be on guard from then on out. As such, he was ready to invite saints from the Yu clan to train in the Holy Ji Palace. By doing so, it would have allowed them to aid each other, before eventually taking out Saint Shihua altogether. Yaya, the glass saint and the others ventured down to the lower worlds, staying behind to guard the Holy Ji Palace. Saint Shihua and his men retreated yet again. The scuffle seemed to have been a minor one, as the Holy Ji Palace remained unharmed at all. The Moon Saint actually came to train at the Holy Ji Palace after that, while Yaya, the glass saint and the others returned to the upper worlds. All of it looked as if things had reached their conclusion right there and then. It all seemed to be an attempt of Saint Shihua at revenge, and nobody bothered to find out about the story behind his actions. Saint Shihua had a massive score to settle with the Holy Ji Palace to begin with after all. The scuffle was quickly forgotten by everyone else. It was something hardly even worth mentioning in the upper worlds. Xiao Xing continued to train as he did in the Shao clan's manner, leaving the place only in rare occasions. In truth, most of his clansmen hardly bothered about him anyway. After that incident, he came to understand his fate from then on out, that he had become someone irrelevant and dispensable, so much so that even the ones from the Divine Cloud Valley came all the way to the Shao clan to null the marriage arrangement. It was all a grave insult to him. Xiao Xing sent men to head to the Divine Cloud Valley that day, inviting Gong Sun and I to a restaurant. Gong Sun and I came to a prestigious corner of the restaurant regardless, as both of them almost ended up together after all. She was still willing to give him that much face, since he was the one extending the invitation. I have heard that you've spent your time training in isolation as of late to break into St. Plain. How is your training going? Gong Sun and I asked. Her sister, Gong Sun Xian, was right beside her, and a saint was standing not far away. Not bad, but I seem to be in a bad state of mind, so it's only natural that I have difficulties breaking through. Xiao Xing said, How about you, Mississippi Gong Sun? We haven't met for quite a while. How are you doing as of late? Hardly any different from how I used to spend my days. Gong Sun and I answered, You have excellent talents, Mr. Xiao. I'm sure that you'd be able to make it out of your current predicament, making a breakthrough and becoming a saint. I sure hope so. Xiao Xing smiled and said, looking serene. A man was drinking alone not far away from their seats, which was hardly more than a table away from them. Xiao Xing. A voice was heard in Xiao Xing's ears when he lowered his head. Xiao Xing remained calm and unmoved when he heard that voice, continuing to chat with Gong Sun and I. Your speculations are on point. He didn't show up. If he were to be training in the royal palace, he would have ventured down to the lower worlds with Xia Qingyuan. Yet, only the princess appeared down there. Even when the ones from the 9 states showed up later, he was still nowhere to be found. The other party continued to elaborate telepathically. Any useful news you were able to acquire? Like where he went to? Xiao Xing asked telepathically. It was the day where they were set to meet. They set the time and date of the next meeting, after every meeting they had. But then again, while Xiao Xing would have been there every single time, the other party who showed up would have almost never been the same. If he were to have left from the royal palace directly, then it was probably done through the teleportation Grand Matrix. You should know of the places that the Grand Matrix was connected with. It's always been those several places. The other party continued, Xiao Xing, where do you think he would have ended up? Is there anyone in the 9 states dead this time? Xiao Xing asked. No one died, the other party replied. Are all the saints of the barren state present? Xiao Xing asked again. They're all accounted for, the other party answered. Then test things out again. Xiao Xing said, at least make the ones at the 9 states pay somehow. If he were to still not appear, then we could be sure that he is no longer in Emperor Xia's realm. I guess he's most likely in Emperor Li's realm if that turns out to be the case. How so? The other party asked. He left alone without the princess at his side. It was not that the saints were not allowed to be around due to him having gone to some secret, powerful places in Emperor Xia's realm, but due to him being wary of exposing his identity. If that was the case, then the chances of him being in Emperor Li's realm would have been extremely high. There was no reason not to take the saints from the 9 states with him otherwise. He's bold enough to venture into Emperor Li's realm to train? The voice of the other party sounded rather funny. If you bothered to know about him, you'd realize that he might be even bolder than that. Furthermore, the reason the princess left his steed in her place was so to know of his whereabouts at all times. You all could ponder on the implications of such an action. Xiao Xing said, at the very least, I've yet to find out what is it that he is trying to accomplish in Emperor Li's realm. What is it that would have caused the princess so much concern that she needed to know of his whereabouts at all times? The other party was silent for a while before replying, I've recorded every word you've said. The other party put down the cup on his hand after that reply and left the restaurant. Xiao Xing continued to chat with Gong Sun and I, looking polite and amicable. One was unable to sense any hint of sadness and anger from him. All of that surprised Gong Sun and I somewhat, and she felt rather guilty for it. Xiao Sheng left the restaurant a while later. He and Gong Sun and I went their separate ways and returned to their own residences. It had been a month since Saint Shihua attacked the Holy Ji Palace. Long Linger and Phoenix were poisoned by someone in a restaurant at the upper worlds of Emperor Xia's realm. Furthermore, the poison used was extremely potent, hitting the internal organs and almost killed them. It was worth noting that Phoenix was versed in the art of healing, and yet even she ended up poisoned. It was a testament of the poison's potency and how well hidden it was. One could have even said that it was a poison at saint level. However, since everyone in the Holy Ji Palace was in high alert due to the incident with Saint Shihua, the village chief was tagging along when Long Linger and Phoenix ventured outside. The village chief did not return to the cottage when the two were poisoned, and had instead sent them into Emperor Xia's palace as fast as he had been able to. The news was hardly of any importance to Emperor Xia's realm as a whole, yet it was no doubt an extremely heavy blow on Yi Futian. What the hell is happening as of late? Is it Saint Shihua again? However, according to Xia Qingyuan, Saint Shihua was not even around when they were poisoned. Yi Futian it all to be an attempt at revenge when Saint Shihua attacked back then. But when Linger and Phoenix ended up being poisoned, he came to feel that someone was trying to do them no good, and that someone was trying to kill those from the 9 states. Yi Futian still remained himself shivering all over despite being at Dali Dynasty, as if he was shrouded by someone's schemes. The most important thing to be done in Emperor Xia's palace at that moment was naturally to keep Phoenix and Linger alive. Xia Qingyuan even brought the two of them to the bedchambers of Emperor Xia, to ask directly for help from the emperor himself. Both of them were at the brink of death when the village chief brought them in, especially Linger, who was quite literally having one foot in the coffin and her life hanging by a thread, given how the poison was all over her systems. Xia Qingyuan, too, felt someone was trying to harm those from the 9 states. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.